I have just concluded a briefing with the FBI, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Secret Service. As we speak, the packages are being inspected by top explosive experts, and a major federal investigation is now underway. And I just want to tell you that in these times, we have to unify. We have to come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America. It's a very bipartisan statement. I can tell you from both sides. We both agree on that. This egregious conduct is abhorrent to everything we hold dear and sacred as Americans. We're extremely angry, upset, unhappy about what we witnessed this morning, and we will get to the bottom of it.
I have not been this angry.
How voter anger could tip the scales for November's tight races.
Suspected bombs target top Democrats and CNN.
Saudi's still open for business, but not everyone's knocking.
This is Reuters Now.
I'm angry.
I am angry.
I'm angry now because you have no clue!
You may have noticed that Americans across the country, Democrats and Republicans, are
angry.
I'm sorry they're angry, but we're not going away.
Where they are expected to go is to the polls next month, and a new Reuters Ipsos survey shows that the candidates most likely to benefit from that anger are Democrats. Reuters polling editor Chris Kahn explains.
Since August, we've been working to quantify exactly how angry Americans are about a whole slew of issues. And we found in general that Democrats are much more angry about certain issues than Republicans were about other issues. So what we did is we asked people a number of different questions about things like separating families at the border, the Mueller investigation, the mainstream media, and really asked, on a sliding scale of 1 to 10, how angry they felt about each one of these issues.
What Democrats are most angry about? The Trump administration's practice earlier this year of separating undocumented families at the U.S.-Mexican border. What Republicans are most angry about is the potential that Congress would try to impeach Trump if the GOP lost its majority. According to the poll, people who are angry will be more likely to vote. Of the emotions rated by respondents, which included satisfaction, hope, and fear, anger showed the strongest correlation with going to the polls.
What we saw here today was an effort to terrorize.
A chaotic scene in Manhattan Wednesday. CNN's New York bureau at the Time Warner Center evacuated after a suspicious package was found in the CNN mailroom reportedly addressed to former CIA Director John Brennan.
Responding officers identified a device that appeared to be a live explosive device. Additionally, there was an envelope containing white powder that was discovered as part of that original packaging.
The scare followed word that the Secret Service had also intercepted a similar explosive device sent to the home of Hillary Clinton in the New York suburb of Chappaqua.
We are fine, thanks to the men and women of the Secret Service.
Suspicious packages were also sent to other top Democrats, including the home of former U.S. President Barack Obama in Washington, D.C., and the office of Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a former Democratic Party national chairwoman. Wasserman was also listed as the return address on the suspicious package sent to CNN. The news network's anchors were forced to continue their coverage from the street. Reuters correspondent Jonathan Allen is there.
One thing that links all the recipients of these packages, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, prominent Democrats, George Soros, one of the biggest donors to liberal causes and left-wing causes on the planet, CNN, a nonpartisan news organization, but nonetheless attacked by critics on the right as being partisan, including the president himself, who calls it fake news, of course. So what seems to be a link here is that all the recipients so far are, in some ways, criticized by figures on the right.
Other high-profile Democrats who reportedly received suspicious packages: former Attorney General Eric Holder, and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who said a device was sent to his office in Manhattan. Politicians on both sides of the aisle condemning the acts.
Let me be clear. We condemn these attempted acts of violence in the strongest possible terms.
It's a time of deep divisions, and we have to do everything we can to bring our country together.
And in a statement, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, quote, "These terrorizing acts are despicable," adding, anyone responsible would be, quote, "held accountable to the fullest extent of the law."
U.S. stocks on Wednesday plummeting, extending their recent slide. The losses felt deepest in the Nasdaq, which plunged more than 4%, its worst one-day sell-off in more than 7 years. Dragging down the index Wednesday, tech giants Facebook, Alphabet, and Netflix, shares of which finished down more than 9% just a week after surging on earnings. The Nasdaq is now down more than 12% from its recent high, hit just 2 months ago, putting the Nasdaq into what's known as correction territory. Reuters editor Eldon Bentley talks about what's weighing on stocks.
Today's really I would say, first sign of panic selling we saw, particularly in the NASDAQ. The backdrop really has to do with, a number of things. There's China tariffs. We had the Beige Book out today. There were 52 mentions of tariffs. And clearly, tariffs and trade are an issue that's, can be a negative for market, particularly in earnings period. But now we're in earnings. We've had a mixed bag of earnings. Banks started out being pretty strong earnings-wise a week or so ago, but we've had some disappointments.
Like disappointing earnings reports from Texas Instruments and AT&T, both closing down more than 8%. The broader market's suffering as well. The Dow sank more than 600 points. That index and the S&P 500 have now erased all of their gains for the entire year.
For all the glitter and the bright lights, there's a shadow hanging over this investment forum in Riyadh. Global outcry over Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi's death prompted dozens of high-profile CEOs and government ministers to pull out. No one was sure Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman or MBS would even show up. US President Donald Trump says he bears ultimate responsibility for the killing at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. But he did, telling attendees Wednesday Khashoggi's case was painful and justice would prevail. Reuters' Stephen Kalin says last year's event was standing room only with a palpable buzz. This year, empty seats.
There were a lot of attendees on the first day, but now on the second day, the number has dropped and the auditorium is barely half full.
But the Gulf's largest economy remains a magnet for global businesses, from oil majors to leading banks. So for some, at least, it's business as usual.
Despite all this, Saudi Arabia is still doing business. They announced $50 billion in deals yesterday. And people are here networking. There still is Western representation. There are bankers, there are people, investors looking to do business. They're just not always at the highest level as they were last year.
A warning from the world's largest tech giant, Apple, over just how vulnerable our customer data is.
Our own information, from the everyday to the deeply personal, is being weaponized against us with military efficiency.
Apple CEO Tim Cook was in Brussels on Wednesday at an international data privacy event.
Technology is capable of doing great things.
He stopped short of shaming other companies for putting profits over customer privacy, but said algorithms, a major tool for competitors, were taking online profiling too far. He said, quote, "We shouldn't sugarcoat the consequences. This is surveillance." It may have been a shot at rivals Google and Facebook. The iPhone maker says Apple designs many of its products specifically so that it can't see users' data, which is why, they say, it has largely avoided the many privacy scandals that have surrounded the other two companies.
We at Apple are in full support of a comprehensive federal privacy law in the United States.
Cook also said he'd like to see stronger privacy laws enacted in the US, similar to the sweeping Data Protection Act the EU implemented last May.
You're up to date. For more, download the Reuters TV app on your mobile or streaming device.